every city basically was a star city. It had these stars around them, but they were all walled, but also somatic shapes. These are the moats, we're told, right? Because we're all taught that castles and, you know, were these square buildings with a moat. But when we can see them from above, there's these intricate somatic patterns, and clearly you can see why we call them star forts, because they look like stars.
So here's one in Portugal, one of the star forts, the huge amount of terraforming around it. Amazingly, this one is still in pretty much pristine condition compared to the destruction of most of the ones you find today.
Piano notes. As you can see, these are all somatic. A sharp, B, C, and they're all these somatic shapes. These are cathedral windows, this line here. These are, you know, rose windows, or they're all in cathedrals, and these are somatic patterns, which are created through frequency, so either harmonics or intention. Down here we have, this is our DNA, so these are fractals or somatic patterns of our DNA. This is what we get when it's good intention. We get these perfect, you know, geometrical shapes, and when it's bad intention, we get this goo. So this is like a polluted river, and this is like a clean river. And so if we tie this back to the cathedrals that have got these windows, and they're connected to the ether with all these spires, and then what else do we have in cathedrals but these things called organs, right? I mean, have these things called organs in our body, and we just, the DNA, you know, somatic is the same as some frequencies in these windows. So what this is all looking like is these are you know, healing factors, or not even healing, wellness, I guess, just to keep people well. They're pumping out frequencies.
You can literally Google any city of the old world from the 1600s and back, and it will come up in these star fort shapes, and every single one is like Venice, and there's canals everywhere. Those were the highways of the time, but they were also so much more, with all of like this hidden technology, infrastructure, and buried history.
And you can see this one again, always these big cathedrals in the cities, but here's one of the stars, right, or batteries attached into the wall. And there's even another one of these more sort of irregular shaped ones out here, but they always have these stars attached, you know, to these star cities. And again, the canals, and you know, you can see this is a big island kind of thing as well. But the thing is with water's free energy. You know, you float a boat, you use the current, right? The current.
How about the water wheels? What are water wheels? Water wheels are harnessing electrical power. Electricity just as much as it was the physical power and mechanical power that they used out of it. What's to say that windmills and water wheels weren't actually generating hydroelectric and wind power a few 500 years ago?
This is a drawing. This is New York City, right? Battery Park is because this is what was there, a battery. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry if the music was too loud there, people. I literally just cut that in 5 minutes while we were just getting ready, so I hope you enjoyed it.
Indeed. It was the first run, so I guess a couple people said music was a little loud, so we'll reduce it for the next one, but all in all, that was amazing.
So there we go. So who we got here? Hippie Shake. All right, as usual, welcome. Melino, Soul Seeker, hello. J30K, Aikebois. Oh, how do you say Aikebois? Is that right? Alan Milne, Tracy Lee, Truth Seeker in Oz, Michael De Silva, Amanda Hollywood. Where'd it go? Holroyd, is that right? Holroyd. Gary Feltham, Two Joy now, hello. Don Burge, and everyone else. How are you all? Aaron, John, hello. All right, what have we got lined up for today, BurnEye?
So today our main feature is we're going to be playing our interview with Rex, the part 2 from this past Friday, July 15th. I think we recorded it on. And then we'll cover a couple other updates and a Brucey bonus at the end, a little bit extra on circuit board Earth. A couple of requests in the live chat there, so why not?
Wow, I am in suspenders. All right. And I had, yes, that's what I was going to say. Look at the beautiful artwork behind me. This is done by Sarah. And again, I've forgotten the name of her channel. But if anyone would like any work done, Esra, if you see her around, is looking for work. What's the name of her channel, Bernie?
S-RA, I believe, on YouTube. Esra is what it is, but
is it the name
no, there's another name for her main one that she publishes. You're right. We will have the link.
So if anyone knows the name, whack it in the link. Yeah, whack it in the. But she is looking for work, so yes, let's support our community.
All right, so
it's all looking good. We're all sounding good.
Yes, please let us know how we're sounding, and then I'll hit play on our main feature here and let us know that the sound is working on it, please.
Website is free and it's uncensored, and you can ask the guest and myself questions during the live shows. So it's always be here in the live, and you want to join us every week at Friday, 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Sometimes it's a little bit later than 9 p.m., but you know what? That's how it goes here. And really honored to have both of you two as guests. I consider you two friends as well. And as we were talking off the air, I am a lot more open to some of these ideas when you bring up the StarForts and the possibility of there being electricity. I haven't done much research in Europe and the States. I have done a lot more research in places overseas. And when you see some of these facilities that look like they're built around giant computer chips, and you look at some of these incredible structures that are supposed to be only 2,000 or 3,000 years old, yet they're so intricate and highly detailed, and they do look like some type of antenna system. The StarForts, I've wondered, and this is a question I'd like to ask both of you, could the StarForts actually have been built during the time of Atlantis?
I think that it's a possibility. Like Bahrain in the Middle East, there it's right in between, right by Dubai and Saudi Arabia. They found one and dug one up in Bahrain, and they dated it to a minimum of 4,000 years old. So it's like that was just the first fire that they found and then carbon dated. So it doesn't even necessarily mean it's the build dated. I don't know. It's a tough question. I think maybe some are new and then many are ancient, probably. Campbell, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely they could be. Some, like you said, some are very old, you know, and extremely weathered, and some look, you know, almost pristine. So I was just thinking, I mean, I haven't heard of any that are found under the ocean, but that would be, you know, a good marker too. But we see a lot that go into the ocean and on the edge of the ocean. So it was definitely a grid system, and definitely came from an advanced civilization. So, you know, if we look at Atlantis as, you know, the Earth, then yeah, I think it's a definite possibility that it's tech from there at least started there, and it may have been brought over and, you know, replicated in the post-apocalyptic world, the post-flood world, I guess.
Yeah, like it's definitely like a prior reset, like probably the most recent or couple of resets, as opposed to personally, I believe the Atlantean one was 12,000 years ago, the Younger Dryas events there, at the end of the last ice age, where the oceans raised 400 feet in 4 years or something, they believe. But it's that, like Campbell mentioned last week, catastrophism used to be taught in higher education as the geology. It wasn't the crustal displacement theory, it was catastrophism, and that there was many resets. So we're just starting to put the pictures back together and the maps and trying to add everything up because so much has been deleted.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And I would say not all of them are that old, but it looks like some of them might be much older than they've told us, and possibly back to Atlantis. And if we were in a society that was built around somatics and connecting somehow to the Earth's fields of magnet, like the magnetic field, and able to harness that energy with the somatics and these buildings to specific specifications, you actually could be tapping into energy you could pull from the air also. And I'm wondering if they actually figured out a way to quantum connect with certain star systems and constellations based upon where they built these star forts and how they built them. Could they?
You're 100% onto something huge.
Definitely.
With that, and that it's connecting them. The majority are on these ley lines already, right? So they are built on Earth's natural energy grid. And then back to the Atlantean one, you've triggered my memory. A couple weeks ago, me and Cambell did a stream, and we looked at, is it Nan Padol, I think it's called, the Micronesia.
Nan Madol.
Yeah, Nan Madol, there we go. And Nan Madol itself is just this tiny little speck of a star fort on the entire island. But when we zoomed out, the entire island is actually a giant pentagon of what looks like a completely reclaimed or artificial island that was like all a Star City Citadel sort of thing. That those could well have been Lemurian or Atlantean sort of settlement prior like civilizations. We have to take another look at it after we saw it, right? We got to do a deep dive on it, but it seemed to give the picture that entire area and island and Upart civilization was all star forts. And if that's the case, then that's more evidence to the pre-Younger Dryas research.
Well, we're looking at the Bahamas as well, and that's sort of the Caribbean sort of area, and every island has star forts on them, like every single one. They've got more than one. And of course they've got Bimini Road and the underwater pyramids, all this kind of stuff there. So it definitely could be, in that instance, it could definitely be remnants of that civilization. Pre-flood. We've got Yonaguni under the ocean. There's the Bay of Bengal's got cities and towns under it. So there was definitely a civilization that's been covered up, and we're going to have a look at some maps later on that'll show the world that looks like it might be the pre-flood world, because we have all these maps. But the thing is with maps is apart from the fact that they tell us most of them are just recreations from source maps, but I mean we don't know when these maps are from, that we see a world in them that is not the world that we're shown today. It's really interesting. So there's definitely the whole catastrophe thing definitely ties into this a lot. The world's definitely been altered at some point.
Rex, have you heard of the 7,500-year-old Slavic calendar and time system?
I have not.
So that's another part that Olaf the Sverker, he's another friend YouTube researcher that we get some of our stuff with, and he was the first that showed us on to the Great Wall of Tartaria that is going to be our main subject and presentation tonight. But he also, because he's fluent in Russian and he lives in Scotland, he's interpreted a lot of these lost Russian maps and sources, and has shown the 7,500-year-old Slavic calendar, and throughout Russia and Eastern Europe, these Slavic gravestones from about 100 years ago, that they're both is it our Gregorian calendar? Is that what our current one is?
Yeah.
So the Gregorian, as well as 7,400 years marked next to it as like the Slavic time keeping as well. So that essentially this Tartarian. It's whether the Tartarians or the StarForts are the same, and the Tartarian essentially was 70 up to 7,500, 8,000 years in between the Atlantis, Younger Dryas mass catastrophe and reset, and then a more recent one somewhere within 1,500 years.
Okay, so you think they could be about 7,500 years old then, approximately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just cut out a bit there, but yeah, they could be. And what we see all the time is civilizations built on civilizations, which we talk about the mud flood a lot, and that's literally, cities built on top of old cities. And the same with the StarForts, or the stars, I shouldn't really call them forts. A lot of them are built on top of, and when we look at them, like the maps from the sort of 1600s, they're all these red brick buildings and the cathedrals and that, which seem to be different tech, or at least built by a different civilization than the StarForts. The StarForts are just bigger again, and they seem to be a lot more based on cymatics and energy, just a different sort of look. And then you get these red brick cities with all the other features. So I think we're looking at just this multiple civilization on civilization. They kind of build up, they get taken down with a catastrophe or a reset, and then some of that tech sort of flows over and it goes up again. So I mean, this is the thing, we're still trying to work this story out, because they don't give us access to much of this stuff. So, but as far as the Slavic thing, I've got an article we'll have a look at in a moment too that sort of explains that.
Campbell, let me jump in real quick, and then I'm going to let you guys take over the presentation for a bit. Isn't the official story about these StarForts, they're built by the Knights Templar?
Well, the official story now is that they were built by the French and Italians between basically that early to mid 1500s to about the mid 1700s, and literally they just say that there was these. I mean, and it may have been a secret
and then
society
also,
or whatever, but they say that there was a group of people that
the Dutch, the French, and then Americans and Canadians supposedly also built the ones over
and jumped on board, but
right.
But if you go to like Wikipedia,
everybody built it simultaneously just a couple hundred years ago. It was the go-to thing to build everywhere.
Yeah, the original story is that there were bands of, you had to be a certain craftsman, like a, Templar maybe, or a Mason, and they went around and built them. But then the stories have been changing, in the last 4 or 5 years since we've been talking about this. Many times I go back to check, details, or to get another article, and it's changed. The story changes because, of course, if it's all built in Europe by Italians and French, then when we find them in America, they're like, oh, hang on, how do we explain that? If we find them in Africa, how do we? So this is the thing. The story they tell us is clearly not true, and it's kind of evolving as we blow it apart, really.
And like Havana in Cuba, it's a prime example of a star city that when you go in through like the main harbor, there's like a couple of the big star forts on either side of the harbor, and then a citadel that's still there, and essentially the same old grid layout as the old world star designs are throughout the world from 500 years ago and whatnot.
Yeah, and when we look at this wall in the Great Wall of Tartaria, you'll see how old and aged that is. I mean, it's just, it looks just ancient. So yeah, we don't know really who built all this stuff, how much was reclaimed. I think we think that everything from the civilization we're in was pretty much reclaimed, but we're not sure about the previous civilizations. But that's what we'll get into, I guess, a bit.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you have the Google Earth available for the Great Wall of Tartaria, Campbell, or should
Yes, I have that. If we want to start with that. 1 minute.
Or did you have
Actually,
something else that you wanted to go over first? I should have asked you, good sir.
Yeah, I'll just show you this. Where are we? Oops. Here we are. Okay, give me 1 minute. I'm extremely organized here. Okay, share the screen. So this is just an article I came across. It's actually from July, and it says Russian president, I'm not sure if I can even say that name, but the Vlad inaugurated a new archive where Tartaria maps are made available to the public. And it says this was in 2013. So, you know, we've asked a lot, where have all these maps suddenly come from? You know, why didn't we know this stuff? And it was clearly vaulted away, but it's been released over the last kind of, you know, almost 10 years. But it says down here, apparently many people have never heard of the largest state department on earth during our history, although we learned about Egypt, Persia, Ottoman, Roman empires, but all of them were little ones against the huge Slavic empire, which over the ages were called Rusinia, Scatia, and finally Tartaria. All the more surprising that this country has not found a single mention in official world history. The gap is now a bit filled by some information from historians, For a long time, there was a huge state formation on Earth, which was decomposed of several continents. Millions of its inhabitants created a self-sustained culture based on the spiritual and moral qualities of man, respect for ancestors and justice, respect for family, and the love of their homeland. And if we come down here a bit more, and it says basically Tartarians, tall, red-haired people, blue-green, grey eyes. And where's the bit I'm looking for? It basically says that the Slavic Empire, maybe I missed it, went for 7,000 years. I can't see exactly where it says it. Encyclopedia Britannica from 1771 says, from Urals to Alaska, from New Earth to Tibet, Tartaria was a great country in northern Asia, bounded by Siberia in the north and called Great Tartaria in the west. Tartarians living in, and then it shows that it all started breaking up into, you know, Moscovia, Kalmy Tatars, Siberian Tatars, Uzbek Tartarians. So that's sort of telling us that how it started to break up over time, and we will have a look at a few maps. And then basically there's even a CIA document that says they went in and destroyed the culture. And this was all during the Bolshevik Revolution. This all happened. So there you go. Basically just telling us that Tartaria is I guess the remnant or the last iteration of the Slavic, the huge Slavic empire.
Indeed. And I've also actually heard, I've got to track down the original source, but it was a Rosicrucian claim that a link through Tartaria and a very ancient, I think it was like 6,000 or 8,000 year mentioned history of alchemy through Rosicrucian alchemy being taught through the Tartarians or something like that. I've got to find that one again, because that's yet another source of occult esoteric documentation of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like, and there's a lot of, you know, debate about the word Tartaria, and of course, you know, we use it because, you know, it's a topic, that's a word people know, but it's the old world. But the more we look into this, I mean, Tartaria, basically in the old encyclopedia says it was basically the whole northern hemisphere at one point. So it seems that, you know, it was not a country as we think of them, but more of a civilization, I guess, where there was independent countries, but they were all sharing the same information and technology and working together. And then basically over time and during catastrophes, it got broken apart, and you know, those people who like to take advantage, shall we say, sort of jumped in and stole it all. That's the way that we see
also, in the
I see it.
further back time period, they were also called, I think, was it the Scythians or the Etruscans?
Scythians, yep.
Right. So it's
Scythians for sure, yep.
It's the same civilization, that same Slavic civilization and technology and whatnot, or group that later was Tartaria, and then I guess broke apart at the. I would have been right before the World Wars, right? It would have been that would have been the last remnants being wiped out for the new reset of the new world.
Pretty much.
Post.
Yeah. I mean, it started back in the 1800s with, you know, all the civil wars and revolutions and stuff, and yeah, I mean, ended with World War II essentially. I mean, who knows what they did during Vietnam, but we know in World War II they went in and they took out all the bells out of all the cathedrals, and well, not just the cathedrals, but out of all the buildings. With this story that they needed the metal to build cannons, right? Like you build a cannon out of brass, you know, okay. And so they took them all down and melted them. And now they say, because they were made of a special kind of brass, and now they say, oh, we can't recreate that brass anymore.
The alloy,
so
right? And it's that they're resembling these Antiquitech, these ancient devices, the macro processors, the macro resonators, these macro harvesters of both atmospheric and probably also etheric or galactic energies, you know, and thus why when those cathedrals used to function, and probably the StarForts used to function, the power of God or the glory of God, the experience, the energy that you would actually experience and physically interact with while inside those ancient sacred structures and buildings would have had a whole different experience than what it sadly would be today. But even today, lots of people do claim to have these out-of-body, godly, heavenly sort of interactions while within them.
Yeah, man, and it's all the frequency, good vibrations. All right, so what I'll do is I will share my screen and we'll have a look at the Googles of Earths. So here we are. This is you know, Italy, Eastern Europe. This is the yellow blue country. I don't know if we're allowed to mention the name. But down here, just to start with, a big thing that we talk about is canals, and this is something that we sort of discovered a few years ago, is that apart from the fact that there's these massive canal systems everywhere that no one seems to have an explanation of, you know, for who built them, most of these, you know, what we call rivers in our cities are actually man-made canals. When you look at them, they've all got man-made edges, and they're all like these equidistant, like this is a man-made canal. You can see how, you know, equidistantly and straight it is
too, right? It's the amount of terraforming and engineering, and that they're built at a time supposedly before it should have been possible too, and they're everywhere. This canal system
and all these
right
lock
here
systems
goes all the way up through the Dnieper River, and then Rostodov, I believe, river in Russia, and then up to Moscow, and then from Moscow all the way through to Kaliningrad in the Baltic Sea, out by Sweden, Finland there, and Estonia. And that it's this canal system, literally from where we are right here in the Black Sea, the Azov Sea at the edge of Ukraine, travels the entire European continent, I guess, connecting the Baltic to the Black Sea. And who built it and when? It just boggles the mind.
It's ridiculous. This one, as you can see, like all dead straight, but it just goes on forever. And they enter, oh, come on, Google, they enter lakes often, and different sort of water features, and then they just pop out the other side and keep going. Oh, come on, Google, it's not being nice, but you can see it coming all the way down here, and it just keeps going. And this, when you look at it, this is a massive infrastructure. You know, it's huge, the amount of territory it covers, and they're just going, you know, winding through all this farmland, nothing around them. And as you can see here, they have these lakes, and they'll come in one side down here, and then they just pop out the other side. So this was a fully integrated system, you know, of water, and we don't know, but we think that the water was something to do with, you know, the power, the electricity or something, or at least, you know, the frequency. You know, obviously water is current, right?
But
Just like electricity, but
the
you see them
infrastructure of the
connected up with the
travel and trade
stars.
too, right? That they had these full of water highways across the entire world that they had built at a time that they shouldn't have been able to even measure the ground to be stable to do it. Like it's crazy.
It is. Now look at this. So this is, can you see the imprint here of this star in the ground? And
100%.
clearly
We have the imprint of another star fort.
So just sitting there, and so this is just been leveled, and they've just built a farm on the top of it. But we see this a lot, these you know, foundations showing through, and there's more along this line. So you can see, I mean, imagine how old that is. It's almost not there anymore. And this is along, there's a wall that connects all these, that goes along next to this man-made canal system. So, you know, we're finding all this stuff, and it's all connected. Here's another one, right? Like this imprint of this star, and they've just built a farm over it. But that's clearly a star, you know, what they want us to think is a star fort. Just the foundations of it. And if we come back, I mean, you can see there's a line of stars here, but we'll get into this wall as well.
Yeah, so this is what we dubbed the Great Wall of Tartaria, and that we'll be getting Olaf, the Sverker channel, Olaf, to come on with us to do a full presentation of where it begins in the Black Sea, across all of the Ukraine, and then across all of Siberia into the Russian Arctic Ocean. And this is just a segment of it off of the Dnieper River in the middle of Ukraine.
And you'll see, I mean, this one, you know, is very, very hard to sort of point out, but you can see sort of a bit of a star point there and down here. And that's been marked because Olaf, he's got a YouTube channel, Olaf the Sverker. He was getting the old maps of this area and overlaying them on Google Earth. And then, you know, the old maps would show where these stars were. And then he would, you know, overlay the map, and he'd find in a lot of circumstances these old stars. Because, I mean, you know, otherwise, imagine just randomly trying to search for this stuff. Because look, here's another one, right? Look at that imprint in the ground. I'll just wait for it to buffer a bit, but you can still see this star. And it looks like there was a bit here they couldn't get rid of. It's still sticking out the ground. But again, they've just put a farm over the top of it. You know, and there's all these other, you know, interesting, you know, circles and bits and pieces in the ground as well. And of course, always, you know, next to waterways and things.
And some of them do have like fortress names and histories. But as we go through, and we've discovered, and Olaf has discovered, especially as it gets into Russia on the other side of Ukraine, that there's not even official histories for lots of these forts along this wall.
You can see this one was, obviously the foundations were a bit too big and a bit too high, so they've just gone around it. But we can see a bit more in this one. We can see this point below it, which is called cavalier. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure it's a cavalier. And if they're attached to the fort, they're called bastions. You know, this is all obviously talk about when they're war. But another thing, you know, a lot of these forts, you know, the army and the armed forces, they call them batteries, right? Batteries. And then, of course, all the troops come out and charge. So, you know, we think there's a lot hidden in the language as well, as far as what, you know, what the function of these things were. But if we come down here, we'll start to see this wall that just appears out of the landscape, and the same features. We get these, you know, we'll call them bastions, these, you know, pointy spear tips.
Also petals.
The same kind of stuff that we see here. Pedal, yeah. Petals is probably better. That's what Olaf is calling them. You know, petals is much nicer, right? Much
and
less
they're the
violent.
exact same shape and wall as, for instance, the map that we showed of New York City, the Wall Street, that wall. This is the same identical infrastructure petal bastion wall that is Wall Street, yet it's the other side of the world, and no real official history of what the wall itself was or when it was built.
Oh, did we just lose Bernie? Okay, so
I've got my camera off just to try to preserve bandwidth.
Oh, you keep cutting out a bit there. Okay, so we're just following this wall. Now, if Google would be nice, you'll see. So here, we get these pointy bits along this wall, and there's another one there. They seem to be pretty equidistant, and like Bernie was saying, these are the exact same features we see in all the star cities, and we saw in that picture of New York on Wall Street, like the wall that surrounded New York, or New Amsterdam at that point, was this exact same kind of wall. And we don't even know, you know, why they have these, you know, bastions, these pointy bits, but they're everywhere. They're just equidistant along all these old structures. And this wall, and you can see how old it is, you know, there's literally just remnants of it left. But you can still see it. There's another pointy bit. And there's a big one, which probably means there's a star close by. And it just keeps going, always close to water. And then up here, see, it starts again. There's another pointy bit. So again, like Bernie was saying, there's no narrative at all as to who built this, you know, and this thing is a massive, massive construction. Still going down here, you can see another pointy bit. Down here. Oh, and look, there we have another star fort, a star just sitting in the middle of nowhere, right? And again, they've had to go around this one rather than covering it up because the base is obviously too big. So you can see that there's a connection between these walls, these stars, and as I've been mentioning, they're always close to water. Now, you can kind of see the remnants of the water here. This place as well has been bombed. It's been carpet bombed. You can see, like, if we go down to places like, it's probably not the best one, but in some areas, it's literally just pitted with holes. But you can see all the markers for this wall. It just keeps going and going. And here's another star, right?
Just
but no narrative as to who built these stars. So it's like we've been saying, this is the same stuff that you can find in, you know, the Americas, in Africa, in Europe. You know, it's the same stuff. That's why we keep saying it's built by the same civilization, right? Like, there's a bit of the wall there, you can see. It's just, and you know, we sort of spent, you know, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours doing this, but with more time, we're pretty sure that this would map right across, because when I pull out, the same stuff is up here. So no doubt this system goes, I mean, and no doubt it just spreads out and goes everywhere, I would think. But up here, you know, we see these same canals and these same, you know, star forts and things up in, what's this? Is this the Baltic Sea?
Yeah, this is just off of the Baltic.
Be the Sea of Tartaria, didn't it?
Right behind.
Oh, that's the Baltic there, yeah.
Yeah, is that either St. Petersburg, yeah, behind St. Petersburg. But so this canal system through St. Petersburg actually goes through the rivers, connects to Moscow east, and then goes south all the way down to where we were going through the Black Sea and Azov Sea and the Dnieper system there. And right there, that's a prime example of
an old star.
Exactly, that entire coast, and it's
and this is an interesting one. I think this is probably partly because of water levels rising. It's this canal. It's right on the coast.
And surely some of the canals are newer developments and newer infrastructure, but it's that when there just has to be comparative research of bringing up all of the old maps, sourcing them, and you'll be shocked at how many times there's actually even more canals in the ancient older maps than even do exist today, and you end up finding dried up ones and everything. It's just mind-boggling each time we go in.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, some of this is new, and some of they've done some retro work and that, but the old system itself is definitely old world, because it's not complete. It sort of goes along, then you find some covered up bits, and then it just sort of pops out somewhere else. But they obviously are tying into it, where they can use it. But I mean, so yeah, look, if you look at this area, if Google will let us, I mean, you can sort of see, it just looks like it's been decimated by something. Like the landscapes you see out here, they're just very strange. Not that Google's been very helpful. And there's these just like pitted with holes and stuff. Like down here, you see all these just sort of random kind of holes, and they're just sort of everywhere. So it looks like this whole place was literally bombed out. Look, I mean, look at this landscape. All these,
right, and it's
very strange.
Like Alaska and the Yukon as well, and then all of the Siberian coast. And they claim that it's from this glacial ice scarring. But when you go into some of these ancient maps that we'll go through at the end here of Tartaria in the northeastern Siberia, where there wasn't supposed to be any former civilization, yet you'll see these castles and these cities all marked on these rivers and stuff. And then when you go through on Google Earth, it just looks like these massively blown out, bombed out former ruins and war zones.
It really does, and Google's not. Oh, hang on, let's have a look. But this kind of stuff, just these kind of random, holes everywhere. It's just all over this region, but also these lines in the ground. I mean, that could be a road, but look at this. This looks like a big foundation of some kind of big building. And even when we come in on these cities, we get this look where they all kind of splay out from a centerpiece. That's another thing, is all the cities, they seem to be laid out in the same way. And no doubt, if I had time and Google was being nice, no doubt there'd be a star down there somewhere. But the whole landscape here, I mean, you can see it's just this weird pitted sort of look. But just before we get onto the maps, I'll just show you where we were looking. Where are we? Europe. What's that? Up here. So this is like the Bahamas. Let me just do that. Or the Caribbean. And we just did this, in half an hour or something, I think.
Yeah.
On a live stream. And there's just these StarForts everywhere. Again, if Google will be nice to me.
And it's like, when did the pirates have time to be building these elaborate star citadels and cathedrals and reclaimed islands out of the sea?
Is this a good one? Oh my God. Okay, maybe we'll have to go to the maps. Google's not being very nice. But you can see down here, there you go, there's a StarFort. Clearly an old one, that's sort of ruins, right? That's that's like not a pristine star fort. This stuff out here, obviously, you know, this is all new and man-made, but you see this old structure just sitting here out on this island and on a hill, you know, buried as well. I mean, that's a very built out. And then this is what we get, you know, Google Earth, right? I mean,
it works every time until we go live.
It does. This is Puerto Rico. So if we come down here, this whole area is basically, so it looks a lot like Malta. Malta is just one huge star fort. I'll put star down there. So, oh, okay. So you can see up here. Okay, you can see again these same features, the way they build the walls with it. See that shape there and there? That's exactly what we were looking at in the wall and those stars in the yellow blue country, right? So the same features. So this, you can see, you know, they've got this star wall around here, and it actually goes up.
The entire
You can kind of see it
side
up
of
here.
the top, island there. It's all
More of it
one
there.
giant citadel. And then, in there, that's a
yeah.
city, guaranteed. The Citadel city there, even more. And the further back you
out
go,
in the middle of nowhere on this tiny little island, right? Who built that?
Everywhere. It's the exact same everywhere, the further back you go.
And this one is Fort Jefferson. This is the largest red brick building. Oh, there you go. That's a photo, obviously. The largest red brick building in the United States, 60 million red bricks built in the he's going to test me, 40s, I think, maybe the 60s. But this is it, right? It's literally in the middle of nowhere on an atoll. Now this is just what we call the citadel, just the inner part of a much bigger star. Of course, being in the ocean, you always want to build your moat around it, right? Because, you know, water. But yeah, the thing about this is it's built as a fort. Now, what good is that fort going to do there? Anyone trying to, you know, invade the US, oh my God, what's happening with Google Earth? Is just going to sail around that, right? Why would you go near it? Why wouldn't you just sail around it? So they have no use. These forts, and there's lots of them, you know, on the coast and in the water, and they say, oh, they're for defense. They make no sense at all, you know, from a tactical sort of standpoint.
Just a logistic nightmare, and at a time that supposedly electricity barely or didn't even exist.
And they're even in Australia. Where is this? Oh, this is Melbourne. And you just see remnants of these stars everywhere. Like you can literally, you know, go to any city. I'm not sure how good this one is. And just go down near the water and you'll find remnants of these strange things. So again, you can't see too well, but you can see again these same shapes in the ground. This one's obviously quite old and being built on top of. And then you go across the water and there's always another star for some reason. And maybe it's because they're passing current, maybe, across. But again, here, it's very sort of washed out. And we do see down in here, these kind of bits of old work. Now, these round things, these are everywhere. And they always tell us that these are for cannons from the wars, from World War II. But yeah, but this is Melbourne, right? And Melbourne, I mean, who's coming into Melbourne with a boat? Seriously, in World War II, Melbourne is the furthest away from anything, right? This is Melbourne. Like the world was so far away that you don't, any forts you would need in Australia would be across the top here. You know, maybe a few there, but down here, and they're even down in Tasmania. Like anyone's going to invade Tasmania, there's nothing in Tasmania. But anyway, that was our little look at Google Earths. Are you back, Bernie?
Yes, I am. And right, every time you go on Google Earth and you look, take a look at StarForts, you find a whole bunch more that you didn't even know were there the day before.
Yeah, and we find these cities and the forts, and then we find these things that, because none of these have names, right? I'm calling satellite stars, and they're sort of, you find them in like perimeters around the cities, sort of out, like, I think there's even like a distance, I think it's about 5 to 7 kilometers, and you find these rings around the city, or these perimeters, and no doubt they might go out further, and then they probably start to merge into the next city. So it looks like it's this like very big complex system, but half of it's been destroyed and built over and all this kind of stuff. So we're just trying to rediscover, research, remember.
Right? Being autodidactic, the self-educated on what's actually out there.
Indeed. So should we look at some, well, I've got a map up. So let's look at this map. So this map is, if I can find it, here it is. So this map is called what's it called? The Monte Urbano Planisphere from 1587. So this is a real map, and basically it was found, well, I don't know, found, right? Came to light about 10 years ago, and it was bought by David Rumsey, who, this is a really good site if you want to check out maps, guys, davidrumsey.com. And this is it. It's 10 foot in the actual map is 10 foot in size. And, apart from the fact that there's all this land around there, it's just got, everything's different on this map. Okay. So it is said that this was built from source maps. So is this maybe what, the world looked like, pre-flood maybe? We've all heard of Hyperborea. Well, okay, maybe not all of us. A lot of us may have heard of Hyperborea, which is these 4 continents.
Maps, is it, that also have those 4 little continent islands around the North Pole?
Yep. Always 4 islands, 4 rivers, always something in the middle, like, a magnetic mountain or a tree or something. And another thing is, they always say there's pygmies up here. You can see they're pygmy. So there's all these, similarities, and these 4 continents, that they're actually on a lot of maps. A lot of the old world maps, you'll see them just up in the very top, just little bits of them, but they disappear. We're taught that they never existed now, but you just get things like this, New Zembla. Now that island kind of appears and disappears on maps that we look at. So again, when we look at the maps, it looks like we're looking at a different, time, a different place maybe. Terra Verde, okay. Greenland, right? Or actually, no, this is I think that, because there's actually 2 Greenlands, or that look like Greenland. So that, I'm not sure which one that is, but that might be Greenland. But look at the size of that compared to what we see Greenland as today. And we've got Iceland. Now look at this, Iceland, green, no ice, covered in cities. All these red things, these are cities. As you can see, most of them are named. Stella, Luci, Oros. Okay, and then we have Icaria, that the same thing. It appears on some maps. And Frisland, this appears and disappears as well all the time on old maps. Hitlandia, and then we get into Scotia, Islandia, the UK. But basically, when we look at these maps, it seems that we're looking at, a different world. So is this the pre-flood world that we're looking at? It's pretty interesting. And if you come out on the outside, it actually shows you all the kings. I'll go to one that we can read maybe. Actually, we can't read it because it's all in Spanish, but it tells you all the kings at that, who were ruling the countries and the kingdoms at that time. And of course, a couple of mermen playing in the waters. And, of course, this is you know, around that with a lot more, you know, land right on the outside. And we see this on a lot of maps as well, that, you know, the south especially, there seems to be a lot more land down there, which
How
is
about
something we won't get into
Africa?
on this talk.
Is
Africa. So
also,
is this Africa? Yeah, it is. Yep.
yeah,
So
it looks
yeah.
like there's
So
still
this is the
rivers, and the
Sahara.
Sahara is not there. It's a green throughout, it looks like.
Yep.
And cities and
So this is this whole area actually. I mean, and also look at the shape of it. It's, you know, it's much more drawn, stretched out, right? But it's all green. Like now, the Sahara is literally the whole, you know, sort of top all across here. As you can see, like Bernie said, we've got waterways and we've got lakes. Again, you know, looking kind of canal-like, how they all kind of run into lakes, isn't it? You know, we've got our hot band across here, but we've got alligators. Oh, hang on, that's a dragon. And cities everywhere. Look at them all. And it's showing you there's forests and trees up here all over the Sahara. But and again, they tell us, you know, what, 10,000 years or something, the Sahara has been a desert. So, you know, this whole time thing, we don't know when the source maps that this was, you know, based on were drawn. So we don't really know what the time frame is. But we see stuff like this, right? Dragons all through, and we see this through all the old maps. And then, of course, on all the, you know, seals and symbols and flags, what do they have? But dragons and things. Got camels, crocodile, looking upwards for some reason. And then if we get to, gosh, it's hard to, I think I can turn this somehow. Is that how I turn it? Oh gosh, what did I do? I missed it. Let's go back. That's not how I turn it. Oh well. This is
north and south.
Oh, Canada. It's actually called Canada Province. Look at that. And if we come in here, you'll see, is that where the Great Lakes are? I don't even know. Yeah. But you'll see there's no Great Lakes. I need to change the perspective, don't I?
No, maybe could be one of them.
Rotate.
Although it looks like the top right.
Okay, here we go. Okay, I think I'm allowed to rotate here. How do I rotate? There, this one. Oh, all right. Where are we? Africa. That's the wrong way. Don't.
No, you're straight to the left.
There, America. So yeah, where are the Great Lakes? I mean, aren't they here? Is this them? I mean, I don't know, Lake.
Yeah, no, it looks like kind of right there, but it looks like
in the right area?
Connecting them all. Then.
Yeah. Well, look at that. There definitely is. And down here, we normally find NorthAMerica. Here we go. Territory of NorthAMerica, or they're saying NorthAMerica, but this NorthAMerica shows up everywhere. And it looks like this whole sort of region was called NorthAMerica. And there was actually a city as well called NorthAMerica. And it appears in books and things from, you know, explorers back in the sort of 1500s. And the city of NorthAMerica on some maps is suspiciously close to where Washington is today, which is very interesting. But again, you'll see cities, right, all over the place. And again, this map was put out in the 1457. Is that right? 1587. Maps everywhere. Cities everywhere. Right, look at down here. What's going on here? Mexico City. Look at that. And we've got the stories of Mexico City, right? With Montezuma living, you know, on the city in the lake.
Wow.
Got these dudes, and we've even got, if we come down here into South America, we'll find
this was put out.
Giants in Patagonia, region of the giants, right? And the Patagonian, it was Makeda again who talked about the Patagonian giants. And there they are. And this is Terra del Fuego, this big landmass at the bottom. And we still have Terra del Fuego is the closest part of Antarctica to South America.
Wow.
You know, we get these. So who's this? This is Portugal, one of the kings. I think Montezuma's around here in one of them. I think that's him there. Montezuma. There you go. So whoever drew this, or wherever they came from, they knew all the different kings, you know, who was looking after all the different empires and regions and things. So there was clearly a lot more communication than we're told was actually, you know, possible. And of course, we just have all these galleons and things and giant lobsters, but it's just, you know, a very interesting map, right?
Does this
It
one
just shows a world.
Is this
that
one
we
have
don't
a
know.
Tartarian in the eastern Eurasia?
Yes, no doubt. That is a good point. So we are one more there. So this is Asia. So if we come down here, this would be the Mare is ocean, ocean of Tartaro. And no doubt, I'm just going to find it. You're gonna have to help me, Bernie. It does say it though, but Sea of Tartaro, Tars.
Yeah, this one not so much.
I think this, yeah, I think it's more a region. What do we got here? China.
Well, there we see it.
Oh, okay, so that's pretty big. So is there something we got to look for?
Probably got to go
big,
closer to the Caspian Sea to find it in that region.
So this Caspian Sea. So there you go, Tartaria.
But yeah,
Tar. So I mean, you see this tar everywhere. You know, this whole Tars, Terts region. So I think, and this is the thing, I think it was more like Takilistan, more of a, you know, an empire rather than a country. So they were all sort of, it was a Tartarian empire, but in that you had things like China and these different regions and things, you know, set it because it was, you know, set up differently to the way we see the world. It wasn't all about power and all this kind of stuff and beating your neighbor. It was more about how do we help each other, I think, and integrate properly, which you would need when you got dragons running around, right? And these, oh God, look at this dude. He's a bit scary. Desertor de Lop.
right.
So you can see, you know, and this is sort of the Tartar, these, you know, massive water systems, canals. Who knows if they're man-made rivers, but they look suspiciously like they're made to cover a lot of area, don't they? Yeah. And exactly, it's just castles all through here and forests now. It looks a bit different there. I mean, it's all farming land, obviously, now, but that was definitely all green and lush, and it looks like it got carpet bombed at some point. So there you go.
So it's like when
December.
this would have been like essentially the source map, or even if it was reprinted after the catastrophe, it would have been made from an original that was pre-cataclysm. And then it begs the question, like, if Africa was the Sahara was still green and lush, and so was throughout Siberia essentially, and most of the world there, an extra land masses, what civilization, what time period was that map actually made from, and did those people live in?
Oh, you just popped out, Bernie. Are you back?
Yes.
Oh, what's happening with, why is it not showing my pictures? Hang on a sec. In what? Import. Okay, let's see, you're going to work. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right, I think I'm set. So share. All right, so this is Typus Orbis Terrarum, map of the world. And you'll see this is Australia. Now, this is actually a jigsaw, so that's why it's got a few bits in it, but it's an actual map. But look, 1, 2, 3, 4 continents across the top.
Right, with the rivers going through them again, too.
Rivers going through them and all this land down the bottom. Another one. So again, look at all this land down across the bottom. Right, and then up the top, what do we have? Got 2 land masses and the rivers, and then across here we've got the other 2 land masses and the rivers. So there's our Hyperborea. And I mean, again, it's probably a bit hard to zoom in on, but that's Greenland. No, this is Greenland, and this is this other island that's sort of, I can't remember what it's called, similar to Greenland, but it disappears and appears.
And
but look at the shape of Greenland.
Below it also Friesland too.
Yeah, I can't read it, but yeah, Friesland, and there's a big story with Friesland as well, and Frieslandia. This is so this is the Indian Ocean, but just to show you, this says New Guinea. Now, New Guinea at the moment, this is 1600. Oops. New Guinea at the moment is just a tiny little island off the top of Australia, and look at the size of this. And in these old maps, it actually said, it actually calls the landmass where Australia kind of is, it calls it New Guinea. So it's very strange. Again, look at all this land across the bottom. And look at this one, shows mountain ranges and animals and things across here. Terra Incognito, right? South America's connected up to it. And up the top, is it gonna, does it have on this one? I don't think it does. So, okay, so up the top here, Hyperborea has disappeared now. It was there. Iceland, I think. But yeah, so this one you can see some of the lands are disappearing here, but look at this. And this is such a common theme. Here's another one, right? This massive landmass down the bottom and up the top. Right, Hyperborea. And it is mainly this sort of region where we see these islands appearing and disappearing and changing shape and everything. And of course now it's there's nothing there. And I mean, I should show you actually, I'll just show you quickly what happens when we go to Google Earth and see what's there. Let's go and have a look what's there now, right? What do you reckon? So if we come up to the North Pole, which is pretty much here, as you'll see, there's nothing. It's got land underneath. There's no land masses or anything. Now, as we come in, look what appears. What's this? All right, now this used to be a bit wider. They've cleaned it up. But it looks like, is there something else under here that they're covering up? Because look, this is a stitch-up job. Are these, is this like clouds under there? See that? What is that? Does that mean that, they're hiding what's actually in this region? Because you can see whatever's down here is a different picture, right? What do you think that is? It kind of looks like clouds here. Not sure. But definitely doesn't look like this blue that we get, right? So that's, this, clearly this isn't a picture of the ocean. Look at these angles, these square edges. So that's the north. And if we go to the south, it's even weirder. So this is the South Pole. Now, just to start with, check out this circle. All right, and as we go in, you can see this circle. See the kind of edge there. In we go, and look what happens. What's this? What's going on here. Can you see all these lines that are coming in like they've been folded in? And then what's this? Like all these lines that we get popping up everywhere. Look, what's going on? You see them? Look at that. So this is not a picture. This is not a photograph. It's Pac-Man after he's eaten, right?
0 data allowed on either poles. Just
Yeah.
re-rendering.
I mean, even if we just come out to here, you can see it's already, I mean, it looks like it's been stretched or something, but that's more of a photo that's been altered. But in here, it's just, this is just complete. You know, I mean, what is this? I mean, someone explain this to me. Come on, this is not the South Pole.
Like, is
So
that
this is what
the
we get.
entrance
And
to
in those old
inner
maps,
Earth?
again, it's showing us things different than what we're told. But once you can, I mean, you can see that circle. Once you get out, it sort of starts to get a bit more, you know, looks a bit more like it's real. But this inside this circle, it just looks like it's just, I don't know, it's just a mess of colors, right? And so that's what we get. And as you'll see down here, this is bottom of South America, closest part to Antarctica, and this is Terra del Fuego, sort of this area, I believe. So that's what we get. And when we look at the maps, you know, from a while ago, they kind of say the same thing. You know, we get these, oops, look at this, Terra Australis, this massive landmass. So we don't know what's going on. This is the thing. I mean, look what's happened. This is the other side of the world on that map. I mean, look what's happened in the last couple of years. See all this land down here? And again, and the interesting thing, right, they always call it, what is it? Terra Incognito Australis, which means the hidden land of Australia. But they always named it, so they knew it was there. They weren't looking for it, but they're always like, "Oh no, it's it." And even the word "hidden," right, means they know it's there, but they haven't found it again yet. So it's very interesting, you know, the way that they use their words. But yeah, here again, look at all this land down here, and up the door. What's happening up the top here? I'm not sure. It's not, again, it's not, this isn't the biggest picture, unfortunately. But this also shows different cities around the world. I have to get a bigger version of this. I'm not sure what the year is. I think it's the 1600s. But this, you know, all these maps, again, show the same thing. Oh, actually, this isn't a world map. This is Terra, oh no, that is, yeah, Terra Australis Nondum Cognito, hidden Australia. Yeah, oh yeah, here we go, Asia. So again, at the top, right, let's count. 1, 2,
And
3,
look,
4
Shalaga,
continents.
Shalaga, right at the a city called Shalaga in North America, where the Great Lakes should be, on the far top left, right under the guy.
Oh, here.
Yeah,
Shalaga, right? Doesn't sound anything like
And
Chicago.
Florida, still.
Florida's always in the maps, and up here, oh, what's it called? What's the other state? It's like a girl's name. I'll remember in a minute. It's there a lot as well. So it's like you know, it's like that when they found this, it was already called Florida, because in all the old maps, it's always Florida. And then you get NorthAMerica, and then you get the other one that I can't remember. Is NorthAMerica in here? Oh, there, NorthAMerica. So you always get these recurring names. But of course, we're told NorthAMerica never existed, and it was just this, that, you know, it's like one of these, you know, fantasy kind of cities, you know, how they have all these stories of these, you know, these cities that, you know, futuristic and fantastic, but they don't exist. It's just that, you know, 20 different people talk about them from different perspectives. But this is the thing, we get this, and then we come across to Asia, and of course, Tartaria. So this is the thing, you know, all these old maps seem to sync up with each other, but they don't sync up to what we're told today. And this is, yeah, South America. Look at the shape of South America. Brazil is another one that's always there.
Yeah.
Brazil or Brasilia. What's that? Oh, now it's really bugging me. I can't remember that state. And the US is another one, of course, massive land at the bottom and continents up the top.
Is it
So there's just so
Pennsylvania?
many examples of this. Again, 2, 3, 4. It's just everywhere, right? So this is how people saw the world. Oh, sorry, Benny, you go.
Yeah, the 4 islands up top, where the North Pole on the last one there. It also had it. But yeah, this is all of these maps are from pre-cataclysm sources, pre-reset. Yeah, right there. You can see the 4 different continent islands for the North Pole, and then once again down south, the or Antarctica and Australia were essentially one giant landmass.
Yeah. All of them. And look at this. They're actually calling one of the Hyperborean continents New Zealand in this map. Interesting. We've got Tartaria, but yeah, down here.
And the ley lines.
And the thing about
them too, they have all these ley lines
yeah.
mapped on this one. This is a fascinating map. Wow.
A lot of the old maps have these, the ley lines. I think they stopped doing them in around the 1600s. But yeah, this is a thing. They used to all have these grid, these ley line grids all over the place. Which is interesting, right? We've talked about how boats may have been used differently and dragged anchors rather than using them as somewhere, a place to sort of anchor themselves. They may have dragged them in the water and had aerials on the top of their masts and actually been creating energy to drive through the water by doing that. Now, if they were doing that, it would make sense that there were all these ley lines all over the oceans, right? Because that's what they'd be using, because that'd be where the most energy would be.
Very good point. And yeah, so they could have like a balloon or a kite going up into the clouds to get the atmospheric charge, and then the anchor dragging below into that saltwater saline essentially giant sea battery, and you would get quite the electrical differential between those two to be able to power something. If you could figure that out, there's a good chance they did.
Indeed. So we've seen all of those. How do I stop this? Oh, like that. There we go. All right. So did you have anything else you wanted to look at? I think I've got lots of maps. If we want to look at more maps. Here's some. Okay, let's look at some more. Tartaria. This is the thing. There's just so many of these maps now, and there seems to be more. They just seem to just keep coming out. It's really weird. Tartaria. As you can see, Tartaria, it's a bit of a small one. And again, we just see, the fashion, the clothing, all these similarities, these tents are everywhere. There's just so many similarities on all, again, look, here's the clothing. It's the same kind of stuff. This shows, so all this, in this map, all of this yellow region, is Tartaria, I believe. There's a name. Yeah, it is. It's Tartaria, and so it encompassed Middle East, India, China, Russia, the whole area. And then as we get closer to our time, it starts to shrink. You can see in this one, it's only that big. It's lost China and India and all these other regions. Back to here. You can see Tartaria, and again, it's this massive, basically all of Asia. Maybe it used to be called Tartasia, who knows? Tartaria, again with the tents, and again with these cities. Look at the amount of cities down here. Look at them all. And again, all on these waterways, right? All of them, all built around the water. And just, just looking at the way this is mapped out, You know, we don't know, but they could all be man-made canals, because look how it's all kind of interconnected, and you know, this is what they do. And even Japan, right? Cities in Japan looking a bit different to what it looks like today.
Right? Like completely way more land in this time. Even Alaska there and stuff.
Well, what's that? What are we looking at? Tartaria. So that'd be, is that Alaska, is it? Does that say Orleans or Orions? Yeah, I mean, look how close it is. Look how big it is. So you can imagine, you know, if that went, some of that went underwater, that might be, I don't know, Yonaguni, right?
And the settlements of
Again,
Alaska
just, you know,
at this time.
Of course, the same kind of clothes. I don't know why this guy's dressed in a onesie. You know, all you know, it's all. Wait, so it's definitely this is why it looks like it's one culture, right? Same fashion, same, and the same map making on all these maps. These cities are drawn the same. They're always red. They've always got these little spires and circles, and then some of them are different. So no doubt it sort of is telling you how big the city is, or maybe what it's for, or what tech's in it. This one here, so you can see again, independent Tartary. Right, Tartary, China, like Chinese Tartary above China. So this is where it was, you know, starting to split, because we saw that map where it actually had all this bottom bit. Now they're all independent, and it's just this top bit. And as we, you know, get closer and closer to our time, it gets smaller and smaller until now. Apparently, it never existed. It's just a region, right? There you go. Look at this one, Grand Tartary. So it was a massive empire. It wasn't just this region. It wasn't just a little bit. It wasn't just Russia. You know, it at one point it was. Like I said in the encyclopedias, they said it was all of the northern hemisphere. Oops. Again, just some, you know, Tartar woman, Tartar man, always the same clothes. Tartaria. Cathay, which is an old, another name for China, or a part of China. That looks like that's China there. But so, yeah, this is the world that we see. Oh, there's that same map again, a bit more. So this is Alaska, right down here. Look at these towns. And look, it doesn't look like it's not drawn like it's covered in ice, is it? It's got flowing water.
There's cities over in Alaska there too, and all throughout the northern Siberia there too. Like,
well, I mean, look how high this would be. I mean, look, this is what the Arctic Circle, I guess, right? And this doesn't look frozen, and that looks like flowing water. And there's people camping up there, and there's cities.
They were even showing a ship
Look at this one.
through it.
Look how high these are. Did they? Where's the ship? There is a ship. But yeah, look how high these are. They're right up on these circles, and up in what we would call the Arctic Circle. But this doesn't look frozen. And again, these are flowing, you know, flowing water and cities. So you know what's going on, right? We're being kept in the dark, and with what's gone on in the last few years, it's like, can we really trust the information we've been given about anything? You know, if they're not going to tell us what's good for us, you know, for our mental and physical well-being, then why would they tell us the truth about where we came from? You know, because that's the biggest thing, is people don't want to believe they've been lied to. You know, and I guess it, you know, obviously no one wants to be lied to, but and then the next bit after that is, they would never do that to us. You know, the government loves us, but does it really? Look at what they do in the bigger picture. And again, right, Tartaria. And then you see all these empires, right, sort of arising out of what was Tartaria. We've got the Persian Empire. what's that? The Mongol Empire, Mongol maybe, Chinese Empire. This would be the Ottoman, I guess, Empire. And so it's being split up, right? So they can break the power up. Oh, again, we've got the land down here. So this is, you know, why we study this, because it's so interesting that it's clear, you know, what we're told about history is just, it's just not true. It's just a story, just his story, not our story. Yeah, I think that's it for the maps. Of course, I lost most of my maps. I had 45 gig, which I'm still trying to get back, which I will, but I don't have at the moment.
That was pretty awesome.
Again, you know, if you're looking for, yeah, they're pretty cool. And that was, and this is a thing that was in, you know, that was made probably, you know, 10 minutes, grabbing some bits and pieces. So if you want to look into this, the info is out there now. It is getting a bit harder to find on search engines, but go to Pinterest, go to Telegram. There's Tartaria channels in there that have that's probably the best place to find pictures, is places like Telegram. Just find the Tartaria groups and go and have a look. Blow your mind.
And StarForts on Google Maps. There's so many collections. There's literally like tens of thousands of them now. It just, you
On
find more every time you
Google
look.
Maps, really? Oh, okay. You mean Google Earth or Google Maps?
I think that, sorry, I think it's on Google Maps that someone's created it.
Wow, okay. Okay, I'll have to check that
Don't
out.
quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. Could be wrong.
But that's the thing, yeah. If you just start looking, you know, start at a city, you'll start, you know, you'll find remnants of a star or a wall, and then just, yeah, keep searching, mark them all in, and you'll start to see that there's this grid network that's been built on top of, basically. You know, that's what's happened. It's been half buried and half destroyed, and we've just come along and built over the top of it. But, you know, and ignored it when it was clearly, you know, far superior to what we've got today.
We used their foundations and then covered it with a facade.
A facade, the old face ad, right? They add a new face, and this is what they do all the time, right? Because they're actors, right? They just put on a front, like literally that they put on a front for us on their Tell Live Vision, you know, where they have their cast and they do a broadcast and from Hollywood with their little holly wands. But it's just a front, right? Just like they'd put on the buildings. It's just a front. So what have I got here?
I'm just checking out the if there's any questions in the live chat.
All right. Another thing we get, which we haven't really touched on, is time. You know, and the calendars and the dates. We know they're always flipping calendars around, right? You know, from Julian to Gregorian. You know, we talked about the Slavic calendar being, you know, in the year 7000. We know that Judaism in the year 5000 somewhere. Now, all these different dates, and we're told we're in the year 2022. But are we? And what does that even mean? Right? How can we be in the year 2022 if someone else is in the year 5000 and something, and someone else is in the year 7000, right? But we get these things, these dates all over the place. And as you can see, that's a J, right? J746. And here's, now, as you can see, this one is an I, right? That's an I. It's not a 1. You can see there's an I here in Philip. Well, there's 2 of them. Same as that. That's an I733, right?
That's
so what does this mean? NOJ740. I920. So what's going on here? So a J, right? 750. And this stuff's everywhere. There's another, I mean, that's a bit of hard, but you know, it looks like an I. This is, of course, the Tartarian double-headed eagle. Another symbol that was stolen, as well as with the holy hand grenade, the, what's that called? The Globus Crucibus, is that right?
I'm not
The
sure. I
rod.
only know it from the video game Worms, where it was called the Holy Hand Grenade. So,
Holy hand grenade,
so I
yeah.
think you
Monty
are correct.
Python, man. It's a very vicious rabbit. Through the holy hand grenade. Yeah, so but these dates, so basically there's a guy called, here we go, what's that, an I, J, L. There's a guy called Justus Josephus Scaliger, who was a chronologist. He was one of those J people with the hats that I can't say. And basically he was, his job was to change, or to translate all the old books, you know, from Latin and old languages across into, you know, modern languages like English and French and things. And the story is that when he was doing it, these dates, right, they had J's and I's in front. Now the J stood for Jesus, and the I stood for Iusa, is that how I say it, which is another name for Jesus, I believe. And so basically what this is saying is, in the year of our Lord 633. All right, so it's the year 633. And when they were doing all the translations, they basically changed these J's and I's, and every now and again there's an X, which was for Christos, and they changed them into ones. Okay, now when they did that, they added 1,000 years to the calendar. So, you know, as far as dates, we have no, we just don't know, you know, where, I mean, and it's like I said, what does the date even mean if we don't know where it's coming from? Because, you know, the dates we have are all based on Christianity, basically religion, right? And the creation of the world was worked out by a monk who, I don't know, was reading literature, and he worked out that the world was created on a Sunday afternoon at like 2 o'clock or something. I can't remember, I can't remember exactly, but he was that specific. And that's where we get these dates from, you know, and J828. So there's so much that we have, you know, been lied to about, that has been obfuscated, shall we say. And time and dates and where and who we are is definitely a big part of it. Look at these little eyes, right? I799. And another thing, and there's a J, another thing about these tombstones is they don't seem to go back more than the 1700s.
Another thing I was going to point out too is the Tropic of Capricorn, and like on the maps, the two tropics, right? That for where the stars and the constellation should be on the horizon, it's like, isn't it a couple thousand or 3,000 years off of what should actually be going on?
Yeah. So yeah. So at the moment on our maps, we have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and they are named that because you know, everyone's probably heard of the precession of the equinox. And so there's like the 4 cardinal points is an X in the sky. So we're now going into the age of Aquarius, which means the tropics would be, and I'm not an astrologer, so I think it's Taurus and something, but basically not Capricorn and Cancer. So every time we go through an age, you know, we've just come out of the age of Pisces, the tropics should change as well. But Capricorn and Cancer are from the age, actually maybe they're from the age of Taurus, but they're from 3 ages ago. So we should not even be using them because they don't exist in this timeline, or at least in the timeline we've been given. Maybe they exist in the, you know, in the true year. We don't know, but basically, yeah, the tropics are from 3 ages, like literally from 6,000-7,000 years ago. The tropics that we still use, so they should be changing every 20. What is it? 25,000? Sorry, 2,540 years.
Yeah, 2,400. Yeah, it's 72 years is 1 minute on it, right? So 70.
Yeah. 72 years is one minute movement on the clock. the
I
precession.
think about 2,400. Or maybe.
So
Sorry, I
it's
messed that up.
25,000 for
I messed up the math.
2,540 year cycles. I think it's, what is it, 25,000? Gosh, all these numbers. 25,960. Is that the full cycle? No, it doesn't sound right actually, but yeah. So all these maps are wrong. So does that mean that we're looking at maps from 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, which interestingly enough falls around that date that a lot of people say that the Great Flood occurred? You know, in biblical times, right? They say the Earth is six. Yeah. In the Bible, they say that'd be about 6,000 years ago. So is that where these maps are coming from? So we don't know, but they're still producing maps today with those tropics on them, which don't make any sense at all. I don't know how well we explained that.
And is it, are they doing that to essentially cover up when the source maps were from, and to like cover up that they're a lot older than what they actually are, and that's why they just kept going with calling it the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, even though they
exactly and it's just more so that we don't know where we are, right? It's just more confusion. So they kind of say these things and they say we're in this age, and they say this and this, and this is the tropics, and we just take it for granted without really understanding what it even means. I mean, I didn't know what the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer were until like a couple of years ago, when someone explained that it's the cross, right? In the sky, you have the north point is the age that you're in. So on the zodiac, you have that. Then the opposite to that in the zodiac is, I'm not sure if that has a name, but then the cross, the two that are horizontal, that divides it into quarters, they're your tropics. And so obviously, as you know, the main one, the age turns, so the tropics turn as well. And so this is what should be happening, but clearly someone's going.
And if we're in the new age of Aquarius, then it should be changing. What should it be changing again next?
Yeah, exactly. It should be changing again right now. But this is all the kind of stuff, you know, and everyone's talking about the age of Aquarius, but does anyone really know what that means? You know, so it doesn't really mean, you know, grow dreadlocks and go and dance around in the forest, right? While smoking joints. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It's a much bigger thing, and it's all based on, you know, astrology and cycles and things like this.
Right, the grand cycle, and why so many ancient civilizations paid so much attention to it, and building measuring the megalithic structures that have lasted throughout all of time, that still measure these the grand celestial calendar to this day.
Yep. I mean, we might get into sticky territory if we keep talking about the sky. So obviously we know everyone has different beliefs on the realm and where we are, but I mean, this is the thing. I mean, what we're trying to say is, if you put, you know, the tropics together on all the maps, you put the dates that I just showed you on all those different buildings and tombstones together, they're also in books. You know, all the modern maps and things that we get with all the different land, you know, we're clearly, they're hiding something from us. What we see, and this is why we research this topic, is what we see when we look is not what they tell us, right? They tell us a completely different story. You start digging just a bit and you're like, what? None of this makes sense. It just doesn't. So ultimately, you know, they've done a good job, because we're in a place now where we don't know where we are. We don't know what time it is, and we don't really know who we are anymore. And that's all by design. So that's why, you know, this information is so important. It's rediscovering who we are, where we came from, and ultimately who we can become. Right. That's the biggest takeaway. Is you know, it's the story is we weren't, slugs who turned into frogs, who turned into, retarded chimpanzees and became men. And then sort of, lived in the mud and, all this. And suddenly, we've just sort of climbed up from the swamp a few hundred years ago and we're the epitome of all of mankind. Well, maybe no. We had things much better. We had it all sussed and working well not that long ago. And we can get back there. It's just that someone's come in and taken over, right? Like the racket, right? The whatever you want to call them. They've just come in, pretended to be the good guys, pretended to be the powerful and the smart ones. But now we know that they just stole everything and it's just all an act. And we unfortunately fell for it.
And it's why they're trying to have this great reset yet again right now, because everybody's waking up. So they want to try to erase it all over again.
Which happens all the time. As soon as people start waking up and catching on to what's going on, they have a reset. And these resets can be natural. I believe that they definitely happen on natural cycles. To different, degrees. And that doesn't mean that they're all, earth-wide floods or anything. We actually have specific ones that just hit certain regions. But a lot of them are just made, right? They're made like what we've just seen, locking people away, changing, when everyone was locked away, by the way, they were changing laws, they were knocking buildings over, rebuilding stuff, introducing, of course, cameras and all this stuff everywhere. Because they expected us to come out into a different world, and that's what they do. And obviously all the book burnings, the censorship that we see now, that's a book burning. That's just the book burning, but done on the internet. That's all a book burning is getting rid of the info they don't want you to read. It's exactly what they've done on all of social media. So this is the thing, like this is a reset, but this is, and there may or may not be, a physical one coming up, but what we've been through is just, this is, a psychological reset that they've put on us, because like Burn said, they know that we're onto them and they want to keep their power. So they're trying to take all the knowledge away again, which is why we've got to keep sharing this stuff out there. So please give us a like, share, subscribe, all that stuff.
Indeed.
AutoDidactic on YouTube. And I don't even know
Cambell is AutoDidactic 1,
called.
AutoDidactic 2, and Spiral Up on YouTube. 3 channels.
Okay.
And I am
3 channels all still up, and you're on your 3rd channel. You're
right?
only 1 up. I don't know how
give me my channel.
I don't know how I got through it.
All right, Mr. Rex.
I'm still
been
up.
2 hours here. You coming back? Good
Oh my God, has that been 2 hours?
Yeah, we've already been going for 2 hours.
Time flies, man. Jeez, when you're having fun.
Exactly.
Ripping apart the
Can
narrative.
always go for more maps.
Always more maps. So and like I said, davidrumsey.com is okay. So this is just a Google search, right?
Just
They're everywhere. Pinterest is also good. DuckDuckGo. And like I said, definitely 10 years. If I can speak, definitely 10 years ago, you wouldn't have got this kind of a result. There weren't this many maps out there, but it looks like, Vlad the Putin has been releasing them, releasing all this information, and that's where it's come from. And now it doesn't take long. And another thing that I've just discovered is TikTok. Would you believe? TikTok, you go into TikTok and you hashtag, Tartaria and Old World Map, there's actually a lot of good stuff there. And if you do that and like those channels and that, for a day or two, you'll find that you actually get a good feed. You won't get any people twerking and doing ridiculous stuff. And there's actually a lot of good, interesting stuff on there. I could not believe it. I've actually got one I'm going to show on my next live of this guy who's on a mountain and he's showing these rocks and he just rips part of it off, and it's literally, it's a tree branch, but it's like meters across, and you can see all the tree rings in there, and it just looks like he's pulling bits of wood off this rock. So you have to stay tuned for that one, AutoDidactic channel. But that was pretty amazing. And I've seen some amazing mud flood, like cars that have like literally gone through the road. and underneath them, there's all these windows and doors and stuff, like, you know, a level down.
There you have it.
We got Rex back.
Oh, he's back, the Rex man.
That was great, man. I'll tell you, the next time we do this, we'll figure out the bandwidth issues. I think that's causing there's a little bit of an audio kind of scratch if you go back and listen to it.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna get a
regardless, this is great
modulator.
information, and we're getting the glitches worked out here. And I really appreciate you spending a couple of hours and many years of research with us here at LeakProject. And I hope you both have a beautiful night.
Hey, thank you, sir.
And
Thank you very much, Rex.
Oops.
Hello.
Hello. And we're back. That's
There
the
you
end
go.
of our stream from Friday. It was a
Friday,
good
was it?
one.
Sometime
I'll be
in the
back
past,
this
right
Friday
now.
again. Yeah, your Saturday mornings, I guess. Saturday, Australia. Friday night, North America.
Hmm. Yeah. All right.
Donald
So
Trump's
before we go,
time
we got any interesting
traveling.
comments.
Donald Trump's
Donald Trump's
time traveling blazes. Earth is fake. Indeed. So if Earth is fake, where are we?
Well, where are we? Who knows, right? It's all a simulation. So yeah, if you want maps, guys, davidrumsey.com is good. Pinterest, Telegram is probably the best to get, you know, the good stuff that you don't find in search engines. And who are they? Everyone's asking, who are they? Well, I mean, come on. They are the dudes who are doing and have been doing stuff for the last 2 years. Look around. Same people. They've been in control for the last
reset.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing it right now. They're doing a reset right now. So it's those people, those families, those, you know, societies, those, you know, them, they, you know, and there's a much bigger story there, but that's pretty much who they are. You know, don't need to look far to work it out these days, do we really? I mean, gosh.
It's everywhere.
All right, any more? Trump's hair is fake. Isn't Trump Elvis? I think he must be, because he's got the same hair, right? He just dyed it. Maybe
That's
Elvis
what I
was a
had
ginger. Yeah,
Could be.
that's right. Do you want to hear my Trump Elvis impression? That's
Yes,
a good one.
please.
It's very, very good. Walla walla walla. Walla walla walla. China. China. Thank you very much.
That was good.
You like it? Thank you very much.
I did.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Interesting
God,
things there.
I'm so bad at Elvis.
Apparently, his ex-wife there
Um,
just passed away. It was like hit the news for like 30 seconds and nothing since.
Ivana. I know it's a bit rude, isn't it? Right? I think if you're involved with Trump in any way, that's just like disrespect, man. It's just it's horrendous.
Yeah, there's rumors going around that they gave her a booster a day before or 2 days before, so maybe that's why it's not being talked about. Who knows?
God.
Interesting times.
Well, you know, the thing is, half of booster is boo. That's right. So don't take one. It's a big, scary event.
Don't want to turn into a ghost now.
Exactly, right.
So possibly for next week,
all right.
It'll either be next week or the following week after that we will have Harry Hubbard on for our Is America Egypt Part 2 and his Illinois caves. I will also be doing another stream this Friday on the alchemy of making your own monoatomic gold a bit more. and I'll be going through Frater Albertus Alchemist Handbook. It's a very, very good read for anyone interested in ancient scientific alchemy from a couple hundred years ago. It's pretty freaking awesome. I'll also be doing an episode on, well, HHO and Brown's gas and the electrolysis process of how it violates thermodynamics if you're getting the right mist, the right combination, what's called Brown's gas out of the hydrogen fuel. And I'll also let you know how the progress goes as I consume small amounts of these monoatomic gold. This was the stuff that we made live on my birthday stream with you last week there, just a few days ago. But yeah, I've mixed it up. Don't ever try this at home because you'll probably end up in the hospital or worse.
What I thought it was supposed to be clear, Bernie.
I know. Very risky. Don't do this at home. If I die, you know.
Oh my
God. But there you go. I had a little monoatomic gold.
Just a joke. It's just orange juice and water. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, it's actually just lemonade.
Indeed. We don't know how to make that stuff. God. Atomic, that word scares me.
Yeah, right, because it comes with the radiation, and that's another thing. Don't be trying these electrolysis experiments at home because of cavitation, which does cause huge amounts of radiation, nuclear decay. If you haven't seen my interview with Bob Greenier of Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, basically the inventors of cold fusion, who then died from radiation poisoning. And then Bob Greenier has since taken over the research, but has shown just the smallest amount of electricity going into these electrolysis cold fusion processes. If your design is set up to cause just a small amount of cavitation, you're going to be putting off massive amounts of radiation and going to be exposed to it and essentially poison and kill yourself. So this stuff is not to be taken lightly, and very serious harm can come.
Exactly. Leave it to the professionals and those experty people. Make sure that you only listen to people with letters behind their name, of course, because we trust the science. The science. Spooky. Oh, Carrie Ann. Oh my gosh, I still got to contact you, Carrie Ann. I've been so busy. You need to spooky to me. All right. Oh, Burns just getting up and going away.
Sorry.
All right. What's the time where you are, Bernie?
It is 3:45 in the morning. 3:45 exactly. That's some synchronicity. Right. But I guess that's time for bed.
Go get some sleep.
Absolutely.
So.
Amber's
so there you go, guys. And
hello.
Is she still on?
Good night.
Oh, she is. Hey, Amber.
Indeed.
Definitely time for both of you to get some shot eye. Night, Amber. All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that one. Make sure you give me a like, a subscribe, and a share, and go across to Bernie. What's your channel called now? Bernie
BurnEye, Mine's Third Eye, Science Guy. I finally got the name to it. So just look up BURNEYE.
There you go. So make sure you subscribe, share this around, guys. Stay awesome, and we'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now. Every city basically was a star city. had these stars around them, but they were all walled, but also cymatic shapes. These are the moats, we're told, right? Because we're all taught that castles and, were these square buildings with a moat. But when we can see them from above, there's these intricate cymatic patterns, and clearly you can see why we call them StarForts, because they look like stars.
So here's one in Portugal, one of the StarForts, the huge amount of terraforming around it. Amazingly, this one is still in pretty much pristine condition compared to the destruction of most of the ones you find today.
Piano notes. As you can see, these are all cymatic. A sharp, B, C, and they're all these cymatic shapes. These are cathedral windows, this fine here. These are, rose windows, or they're all in cathedrals. And these are cymatic patterns, which are created through frequency, so either harmonics or intention. Down here we have, this is our DNA, so these are fractals or cymatic patterns of our DNA. This is what we get when it's good intention. We get these perfect, geometrical shapes, and when it's bad intention, we get this goo. So this is like a polluted river, and this is like a clean river. And so if we tie this back to the cathedrals that have got these windows, and they're connected to the ether with all these spires, and then what else do we have in cathedrals but these things called organs, right? And we have these things called organs in our body, and the DNA, cymatic is the same as some frequencies in these windows. So what this is all looking like is these are healing factories, or not even healing, wellness, I guess, just to keep people well. They're pumping out frequencies.
You can literally Google any city of the old world from the 1600s and back, and it will come up in these StarFort shapes, and every single one is like Venice, and there's canals everywhere. Those were the highways of the time, but they were also so much more, with all of like this hidden technology, infrastructure, and buried history.
And you can see this one again, always these big cathedrals in the cities, but here's one of the stars, right, or batteries attached into the wall. And there's even another one of these more sort of irregular shaped ones out here, but they always have these stars attached, to these star cities. And again, the canals, and you can see this is a big island kind of thing as well. But the thing is with water's free energy. You float a boat, you use the current, right? The current.
How about the water wheels? What are water wheels? Water wheels are harnessing electrical power. Electricity just as much as it was the physical power and mechanical power that they used out of it. What's to say that windmills and water wheels weren't actually generating hydroelectric and wind power a few 500 years ago?
This is a drawing. This is New York City, right? Battery Park is because this is what was there, a battery.